Hello and welcome to City Beat. We are your central source for news and information for the city of Rocky Mount. I'm your host, Tameka Kenan-Norman, and welcome to today's show. We've got a lot of new individuals here in the city of Rocky Mount and a particularly interesting new initiative that has come here as well. I'm sure you've heard about it, the White House Council's Strong Cities, Strong Communities initiative. We also call it C2, and we've got David Glasgow joining us on the show today, who is the team lead for that initiative. So we finally got you here on City Beat.
Good morning, Tameka.
Yeah.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show, for joining us today. First of all, tell us, I'm sure a lot of people have read about it in the Rocky Mount Telegram, but what is SC2 and how did it end up here in Rocky Mount?
Okay, those are two big questions. Rocky Mount was one of over 90 cities that expressed an interest in being part of the program. 7 were chosen. A big part of why Rocky Mount stood out among all those applicants was because Rocky Mount works regionally, not just inside the city limits, recognizes that things that impact the city happen outside in the counties, particularly the Twin Counties, but also that the decisions made here in the city affect the people living outside as well. So that got our attention. The SC2 program seeks to take all of the federal agencies that are doing business in this area and better coordinate their efforts so that they don't get in each other's way and so that the city doesn't have to work as hard to know or find out what the federal agencies can do to help move the city forward.
Okay, so as team lead, what is your role in all of that?
So I'm on loan from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and I'll be here for 24 months. In each city has someone from a different agency. Mine just happens to be USDA. I am now here as a coordinator for 17 federal agencies, and I have about 35 right now people from within those agencies. Several agencies have a lot of parts, and so I have representatives from different parts of those agencies. And my job is to work with the city and the city partners to come up with a plan of what we want to move forward on, and then take that to my team and find out where can the federal government help and where can we get out of the way if there were things that were not helpful. Or red tape that needs to be cut, then instead of sort of being stuck working at this level, we can maybe help find somebody at this level to bring those people together and find a way to do a better job of providing services in this region.
Okay, and I want to get more into that plan that you referenced, but first, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you said you were on loan from the USDA, is how you put it, but tell me about some of your other previous experience too. Had you ever even heard of Rocky Mount before you got here?
Well, interestingly, I had. When I was very young, my dad was in the military and was based in Raleigh-Durham, and my parents liked to go over to the coast, which seems to be a common occurrence. So they had actually heard of Rocky Mount and were excited I was coming to this area. It's a lot more like the areas I grew up in Texas and Georgia and Alabama. My background is that I was trained as a lawyer, wound up getting into communications law. I did a lot of small business practice, then got into communications, which led me into government work. I started at the state and then followed a boss to a federal position, and always in economic development though. I worked with the Appalachian Regional Commission for several years, the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. I've also worked with film and music, which is a big industry in Tennessee, and worked a lot in Washington. And all of that brought me here.
Wow, and I was really interested to see that you were in communications too. I was excited when I read that part of your resume. But you mentioned the plan earlier and that Rocky Mount works regionally, which part of that is the Twin Counties vision and strategic plan process.
Yes.
So tell me about some of those focus areas that you chose to focus on here as a part of the SC2 initiative.
Well, every SC2 city, in every SC2 city, the city decides what it is that we're going to focus on because, there are a million possibilities. In Rocky Mount, what the City Council and the Twin County Vision and Strategic Planning partners decided on was that it would be most helpful for us to work with job creation and talent development, improving the quality of life in underserved neighborhoods. And there are a number of them that were recently identified in the Rocky Mount housing assessment that has just come out. And then growing the regional food economy, because Rocky Mount used to be the center of this region, the hub for the whole region of not where all of the agricultural products were brought in, and a lot of them additional value was added here in Rocky Mount. So that resulted in a lot of jobs being here. That was everything from cotton going to the mills to tobacco, of course, and in some ways even Hardee's was impacted by this being a food region. A lot of that production has gone away, so we want to look at ways that we can recapture processing jobs, but then also another piece of that is looking at how do we get healthier foods into the hands of people that need it and want it, and how do we make sure they know what to do with it when they get it. So it's a very broad category, but has some great regional partners all working on different aspects of it.
Okay, that's interesting because that has been something we've struggled with for quite a while. Tell me a little bit about, because you were in front of council and gave them some updates on this initiative as well, and you talked about work areas as a part of those different plans. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, within those three broad categories, we'll have a number of different projects, specific things that we'll work on. One that has already come up that just by me taking to the team the list of, we're thinking about this, we would like to do something like that. One of the things that came up early on was a Rails to Trails project that was next on the city's list of priorities, and it runs basically from the Douglas block to the new brew mill site right on the river, which also connects downtown to the park system, which currently there's not an obvious way to get from one to the other. And so there are a lot of community building aspects to this, and also it ties to commercial areas, downtown and the brew mill, which will hopefully within the next couple of years be a booming business sector as well. So it ties a lot of different things together that are good for the community development, but also economic development. And so that's one that we're already out of the door with. EPA came back and said, oh, we've got a small grant that could help with the initial assessment. And then that's helped generate some additional interest by in the public and private sector. So I think that project is one that's definitely going to move forward. We're working with a whole lot of different community partners from the Rocky Mountain Edgecombe Community Development Corporation on several of the initiatives that they are interested in and have been working on and contributing to not only downtown redevelopment, but several neighborhood redevelopments, to the Rocky Mountain Housing Authority and an organization called Teens Be Global that are both working on mobile food market, mobile farmers markets.
Okay.
Efforts in this region. I think that those will probably move forward too. And a great thing about SC2 is we're not here to pick and choose. What we want to do is take what y'all want to do and then help empower you to do it. So in this case, there were two different groups working in the same area or wanting to work in the same area and moving forward, but they weren't aware of each other yet. And so hopefully we're helping bring them to the table together to work together so that they're not duplicating effort, they're leveraging what the other one is doing. And all of that works together with the existing farmers market because one doesn't replace the other. So that's an example of one. We're working with the Ink Lab group that are working on a regional business accelerator. And they've already got it started, but hopefully we can help them speed it up so that they can really get into a facility and be working with a lot more businesses at one time than they're able to right now. We're working with STEP, which is a regional education initiative, to see if there are ways we can help them. And another thing that's been brought up is community health. That are there ways that haven't been spotted yet? So Nash UNC Healthcare, they have a lot of statistics on the people that are most at risk, that come in and then have to come back within 30 days. If we take that data and then data from the fire department, for instance, on where they're responding to calls and what those calls entail, then maybe we can identify spots within certain neighborhoods or within parts of the community where there's either an infrastructure need or some unexpected thing that the city could take action on that might help improve those health outcomes. These things aren't obvious from the outside, but if we start adding data to it, there may be things that are easy that would make everybody's life better. Anything we can do to help one part of the community actually helps everybody in Rocky Mount.
That's a lot of things that you're working on.
Yes.
It's a part of this initiative. It really is. How do you begin to organize that and prioritize those elements?
Well, so there are two sides. I meet with the city manager's office weekly, and then sometimes daily, depending on what we're working on, and a lot of city staff. And they set the priorities, they make decisions about, I can bring opportunities to the table, and then they can decide, yes, that's something we do want to pursue right now, maybe we want to come back to that in 6 months or 12 months, or that's not our top priority. And then at the same time, I'm also working weekly with the SC2 team members from around the country, and mostly talking by phone, but we've had most of them have come into Rocky Mount. And they're always thinking, what are some examples of successful things from other cities that Rocky Mount may not be aware of? So they'll send me ideas. They send me information on grant opportunities, on loan opportunities for the public sector, but also for the private sector. A lot of federal loans are available for small business development, and even big business development. That can make it easier for a business to say yes to Rocky Mount and come in and create jobs. So I meet with them, and then I try to be that point where everything comes together, and I feed information back and forth to keep it going.
Now, you're referencing that community solutions team, right?
Yes.
Okay, they were here over the summer.
Yes.
What was that experience like? What were they able to see here in Rocky Mount that would help them help you and help us?
So we had about 2/3 of the team was able to make it here in person, and then 2 more have come since then for separate walkthroughs. And I worked with the city, and we developed a strategy. We know that housing is an important issue and redevelopment. We know that the food economy is an issue. The city owns a whole lot of land after the FEMA buyouts. And one of our questions that we're asking is, are there productive things that could add to the tax rolls that could be done with that are still in compliance with the FEMA rules? And so we showed them all of those places. We showed them, took them around to some good restaurants to make sure they had a memorable experience. We met with a few of the business leaders. We went out to the hospital and also talked with OIC and their community health and outreach, with several people involved in workforce development, all to just give them a good overview of what the city wants to do, but also what are the assets. Sometimes if you live in a place, you get so used to seeing something you don't realize it's an economic development tool, or that there's an asset for community development. And bringing people in from outside, they see with different eyes, and they can come back and say, well, did you realize this, or did you realize that? And then we can take that information back to the city and build from it. The Imperial Center has a great opportunity working on a regional arts. It's an art project, but it's an art project that can result in economic development. It can help build up arts-related and tourism-related businesses over time. And so we're working on that project as well. And that came out of people being here on the ground and seeing what the Imperial Center, what an amazing asset it is for this whole region, arts and sciences.
And that's interesting because when you and I met on a one-on-one basis back in July or August when you first got here, you were saying that too. This is an asset, Tameka, this. You know, you saw with different eyes from those of us who had been here for quite some time.
Yes.
But David, what are some of the next steps?
Okay. So at this stage, the City Council has given us the go-ahead on focus areas. And then within those focus areas, we're working with the cities, local partners, and with a number of city departments to identify specific things we can move forward on. Several that I've already mentioned, and then things where the city may already be in the process of doing something, particularly with housing redevelopment in the core neighborhoods, but that the rules or the regulations have kind of caused things to ground to a halt. And so we're working in that space to try to figure out what could we do so that the city's in compliance and that we're doing things right, but at the same time, a city of this size is capable of moving forward. So part of what I bring to the table, or part of what SC2 brings to the table, is taking helpful information back to federal agencies so that agencies start to realize we're not all Chicago, we're not all Memphis or New Orleans, that different size cities have different capacity, and one set of rules isn't going to work for everybody. And then internally we can work on, as a federal agency, that agency can think through what could we be doing different? How could we make it easier to meet our end goal of providing services to the people that we're intending to serve? And I think that'll be one of the biggest legacies. I mean, there'll be hopefully some really great legacies here in Rocky Mount, but I think Rocky Mount's experience being fed back into Washington is actually going to help a lot of other cities, because Rocky Mount is the smallest of the SC2 cities and the only one that is really a council manager form of government.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a little bit different from the SC2 experience in other cities, and that's good, valuable information for us to take back to DC.
Well, you've given us a lot of information. Anything else that you want to add?
I appreciate being here.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here, and we are very, very excited about this. 2 years seems like a long time, but it's really not.
No, it's flying by.
Yeah, you've had to come in and hit the ground running. So we thank you. We look forward to all of the exciting things we know this initiative is going to bring as well. Okay.
Thank you, Tameka.
David Glasgow on City Beat today. When we come back, we're going to meet another new face, Thomas Moton Jr., who's our new assistant city manager, in addition to Tasha Logan. So we're going to talk to him and get some information from Thomas. We'll be right back. You're watching City Beat.
Hot. So hot. Recycling. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to City Beat. I'm your host, Tameka Kenan-Norman, and if you're just tuning into today's show, we're talking to some individuals new to the city of Rocky Mount, and we're touching on some new initiatives as well. And Thomas Moton Jr. was hired, was it in September?
Yes, it was.
Yes, as assistant city manager for the city of Rocky Mount. You're joining Tasha Logan. So welcome to City Beat.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tom.
Well, I grew up in the South. I mean, I grew up in really Chattanooga, Tennessee, in a really tight-knit community, and public service, charity were sort of principles that we grew up in our household. We were involved in inner-city ministry, and at some point in time, I just saw that professionally I could still be a public servant, but also have a foot, if you will, in the management arena.
Okay, so there was no aha moment for you when you got into government. You know, Oprah talks about that aha moment.
Well, it's interesting. I think it was in the sense that one summer where I was waiting to start grad school on my MBA. I really thought I was going to be a business major, finance and stuff like that. I was reading the college catalog, and in the catalog it had a section on city management. And where I grew up in Tennessee, there were very few, if any, really city management professionals. Most of the cities had city commissioners. Commissioner of Police, Fire, Public Works, and et cetera. But that intrigued me. So I think to some degree I was like, wow, I love management. I always want to be in management, but then there's a public sector component. And so maybe that was kind of the aha moment that I saw that there was a career that I could really have the principles of the private sector and business, as well as sort of this common good, if you will.
Gotcha. Tell me about some of your previous experiences, because we've heard you've been in Greenville. Before this, you were in Broken Arrow,
right,
Oklahoma. I don't know where is Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Please.
everyone asks about that. You know, it's funny. The Broken Arrow is really a town of about 100,000 next door to Tulsa.
Really?
And so it's in the northeastern part of Oklahoma City. And you know, what was interesting is if you saw last year's Rose Bowl parade, the Broken Arrow Band has been a regular, and they were one of the bands featured. But you know, again, you know, so I had a chance. I started my career in Texas, and you know, a real quick synopsis is I started in Texas with really a desire to want to work in North Carolina at some point in time, and so I moved from Texas to Missouri to North Carolina, and then there was an opportunity for me to be city manager in Oklahoma. But you know, I started my career in Dallas County, working for the Dallas County Juvenile Department. As a management analyst and trainer, and you know, our department had 800 plus individuals in it, so it was really a large department. And and I worked there with the aspiration of being an assistant city manager or city manager, and went from there to Corsicana, Texas. And Corsicana is probably famous. Some people will recognize it as a Collins Street Bakery. The fruitcakes are made there.
Wow.
It's also the city where oil was first discovered in production west of the Mississippi. And so it's a rich oil history and sort of cotton history, not unlike Rocky Mount if you think about eastern North Carolina to some degree. And then worked there for about almost 5 years, really enjoyed it, had the opportunity to be involved in every facet of city government. We were a city with utilities, and we were what I would call a central city. We were the major city in the county, and it was certainly a good training ground to get your hands immersed in local government. And from there, I worked in Missouri, a suburb next to St. Louis, and some people are familiar with that, and that was called the city of University City, and a town of about 40,000. And what's interesting about that town is really the footprint's really small, 6.6 square miles. And yeah, if you contrast that to Rocky Mount, where you've got 50, 60 square miles, so it's highly dense, urbanized area, downtown development, you know, infill development were really key issues, public safety, quality of life was there. And really, opportunity came for me to work in Greenville, North Carolina. And when that job came open in 2006, I was really intrigued by it, looking to challenge myself and grow. And you know, Greenville's the largest city. It was about 85,000 at the time, and was able to work there for 6 years as assistant city manager and 6 months as a interim city manager. And then was recruited to look at Broken Arrow. And quite frankly, a couple of times I said no. You know, I'm really happy in North Carolina. I'm not leaving. But I remember thinking, you know, the Lord opens certain doors, and you know, I would kind of pray about it, and I felt like at the time that was a good move for me to go ahead and get more experience as a city manager in Broken Arrow.
Okay. Tell me about your stint in Greenville too, as well, because since you served there as assistant city manager, what were some of your responsibilities?
Well, you know, we had myself and the city manager. You know, were the two individuals in the city manager's office, and so initially I started out with well, the public relations or communications division of the manager's office, human resources, IT, community development, which you know, it means different things to different people. In our case, community development meant planning, long-range, short-term planning, the planning commissions, historic preservation, housing. We had our own housing program there, as well as code enforcement. You know, our human resources was somewhat different. You know, we maintained our own lines of insurance, our own risk. We had a training component there as well. the information technology, as I mentioned, and then also the finance, which in our case, finance, purchasing, treasury management services, and then special projects are when there were retirements. So for a period of time, I served as interim director over the building inspections, took some of the responsibilities from recreation parks during a retirement. And then the special projects, really those are the ones that require teams from across the city to work together, but there's no real central owner. And so oftentimes the manager would say, you know, we really want you to do it. And so those projects included, like for instance, would be the expansion of the convention center, the multimodal transportation center, dog park that we created there, bike trails, and also, you know, we had in Greenville roughly about 21, 22 boards and commissions. So had extensive experience working with boards and commissions. In fact, we created a couple while I was there. So we got a chance to create a bicycle pedestrian commission that allowed citizens to be more engaged in those areas. A neighborhood advisory board, so we could have more input on neighborhood issues. And so, you know, it was the full gamut. And then, of course, even the way we worked, we were not siloed. We really worked as a team. So there were times you're working in fire issues or public safety issues, sanitation, public works, streets. So we really worked across the board.
Okay, so a lot of similarities to what you'll be doing here too. Tell folks what will be your role here.
Well, you know, I'm one or two assistant city managers in the manager's office, and as Mr. Penny has advised, Ms. Logan and I, you know, we're not siloed. We're going to work as a team. But my portfolio right now would include the human relations, human resources, public works and water utilities, as well as parks and recreation. So yeah, there are a lot of similarities between what I've done in the past and what I'm currently doing here.
Well, we're really excited to have you on board. And being that you were in Greenville, were you acquainted a lot with Rocky Mount?
I was very familiar from the point where we had a couple employees that had opportunity to advance in Rocky Mount and left Greenville. So from that perspective, but also we took some community members to Rocky Mount to explore and study certain amenities that Rocky Mount had, such as the Maria V. Howard Center, as well as the Children's Museum, Planetarium, and then also the train station. So those are just a couple of facets. But I think what I really knew the most was that as far as a city in eastern North Carolina had one of the most fabulous downtowns. And while there's opportunities for redevelopment, I mean, just the sheer footprint of downtown and the magnitude of historic buildings was something I was well aware of, as well as sort of the cultural history that Rocky Mount had.
And I know you're just getting started, but have you thought about any immediate goals that you want to accomplish?
Well, you know, I think initially, you know, my first goal is to really connect with the departments that I'm working with, as well as with the city manager, assistant city manager, and employees, as well as the community, and listen with the intention of better understanding what are those needs and aspirations. We've got some projects that we need to jump on. For instance, as you're aware, that last week we were meeting for a 2-day workshop on the workplace diversity and inclusion. So that's something that is more immediate that needs to get accomplished. And then I think at the same time, you know, part of it is doing what I call your assessment of the organization, those areas of my responsibility. And generally that takes a few months to really have that assessment completed. And then also see my primary role as really being an individual that helps the city manager execute the manager's plans and priorities as conveyed by the council and the mayor.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, Tom?
Well, you know, I'm really excited to be back in North Carolina, and as I was driving, it was a long drive from Oklahoma to North Carolina to report for work. I just remember when I crossed the state lines feeling like, oh man, this feels like home. And you know, you get a little misty-eyed thinking about coming home. And then when I got back, it just really felt like a reunion. You know, like I'm so delighted to be back here. I've met a lot of wonderful people. I've already bought a home, and so I've met some of my neighbors, which are really warm. And I've visited some churches I've been invited to. So I'm just really looking forward to being a part of Rocky Mount and our organization, as well as the community, and helping us move forward and really making life better for everyone, creating those jobs and quality of life that we know everyone aspires to have.
Well, we're excited to have you, especially with all the experience that you have. I look forward to working with you as well.
Well, I'm delighted to work with you, and I know I'm going to learn a lot from you as well.
Well, thank you. Thomas Moton Jr. on City Beat today. When we come back, we're going to talk with another new employee for the city, Susan Ball. I'm sure you're going to see her around. She's our new special events coordinator. Thanks to Tom again. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be right back with more of City Beat.
Sorry, but it's over.
Is it the lying?
No.
Is it because I still live with my parents?
No.
The $200 I stole from your purse?
250.
Is it because I took your sister to Hawaii and not you?
No, Jerry, that wasn't it at all.
Then what is it?
You don't recycle.
What?
Hello and welcome back to City Beat. I'm your host, Tameka Kenan-Norman, and if you're just tuning in to today's show, we're speaking with folks who are new to the city of Rocky Mount. David Glasgow with our SC2 initiative was on the show earlier, as well as our assistant city manager, Tom Moton. And today we've got Susan Ball with our Parks and Recreation Department. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
You look so cute.
Well, thanks.
You're
do too.
welcome. Thank you. And Susan is our new special events coordinator for the city of Rocky Mount, which is a big job.
It is so far.
Yes.
It's been very big with the holidays coming up.
And so how long have you been with the city now?
I have been here about 3.5 weeks. So the middle of October is when I started, so still very new.
Very, very
Yes.
new. So I'm glad you came on
Well,
City Beat
thank you.
anyway.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I am originally from North Carolina, from a small town west of here, so new to the Eastern Flatland area, as people joke, but from Oxford, North Carolina, so just above Raleigh and Durham. Born and raised there, went to NC State for school, graduated with Parks, Recreation, Tourism degree, so my background is in the tourism and the event planning industry, so it was a perfect parallel to come down here to Rocky Mount. So I enjoyed my time at States, and definitely from a family of state fans too.
Well, that sounds
Yeah.
good. I didn't go to state, but hey, that sounds great.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about some of the previous positions that you've
Yeah.
held. Is this your first time in government?
It is not. I actually, out of college, worked in the private sector for a hotel management company. So I started with the company Summit Hospitality in the Raleigh-Durham area, fresh out of college, doing event coordination with the hotel. So with the Marriott property, handling all the social events. And then worked my way up through sales. So I ended up, after leaving Summit, I was at my time working with about 8 different hotel properties doing corporate and social sales. So it was a very different beast from the public sector. So I left that position and worked in my home county of Granville County. So I was the first tourism development director for the county. So it was a brand new full-time position, my first time in the public sector, very different from the private sector, but loved every minute of it. And did that for about 1.5 years, and that was what I just left to come to this position.
Wow, so this is
Yeah.
going to be a great fit for you.
It is. It's very much like what I've done, kind of a combination of all of the positions that I've held, but it's nice because the city is different and I'm new to the city, so it's kind of exciting to be the new person in town to really take a hold of some of these events.
So being from Oxford, had you ever even visited Rocky Mount before?
I had. So I started looking in Rocky Mount for jobs because my fiance is from the area. So now we're finally in one space, able to settle down, and it just worked out when I saw this job posting. So, because I had been visiting Rocky Mount for about 3 years, getting to know it on the weekends, you know, when coming to visit family, and so it was perfect timing.
Yeah, well, congratulations
thank
that you all
you.
can be in the same space.
Yep.
Yeah, any idea on a wedding date?
We do. We have one set for May, so it'll be coming up fast.
Even though I digress
Yeah.
really a lot, but no, congratulations
thank
to you.
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about what this job entails.
Yeah. From what I have dug into, there are several key events that Rocky Mount hosts annually, and I think that this position is perfect for me to be able to dig into those events and really grow them and see how we can change and adapt them to benefit the citizens and visitors. So it'll be a lot of work ahead just to kind of dig in to see where things stand, and I'm excited about it. The events are awesome. I started on my first day at the barbecue event, so the Eastern Carolina Throwdown, and that was definitely eye-opening for your first day on the job to get in hands first.
Yeah, I thought about you
Yeah.
when they said, our new special events coordinator is going to start on the day of the barbecue throwdown.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, y'all really just throwing her in there right now.
Why not?
So you were there Friday and Saturday.
I was, yep. So I was there Friday, which was great to kind of see the setup and everything, and then Saturday for the actual contest and the festival part of the event, and to kind of see how that goes. It was perfect because I have exactly a year before the next one, so I know exactly how things should go and how things can grow at the same time.
Wow, so you have, there are like over 30 events
Yes.
that the city does. Downtown Live, have
Yes.
you ever been to one of those?
I have been to one.
Okay,
Yes. So I
okay.
have been to one. I went to one actually last spring, and really enjoyed it. It was perfect weather that night too, so that was nice.
Yeah, that's one of the
Yeah.
favorites
It
here.
is.
So.
It is. I mean, great location too, right at the Imperial Center. So it was perfect.
So what are some of your immediate goals? I know you're new, so it may not be a fair question.
Yep.
But what have you thought about?
I think getting in and getting involved in the community is one of my first goals because I am new to the area, and when it comes to special events, I think it's going to be really important to know the key business people in the area. So really networking and getting involved. So I want people to know who I am. So when we are looking to grow some of these events, we will work on it as a community. And that is kind of where I hope long-term goals will be, is to take the events that Rocky Mount currently has and to really grow them so that they're really well known regionally. Put Rocky Mount on the map. That's what I hope to do, and I hope to maybe create some new ones, something different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about the area that's been attractive for
Yeah.
you at this point?
It's been very interesting coming from, and I'm not from the western part, I'm from the Piedmont, straight in the middle, but coming east has been, it's a beautiful area here, and really getting to know how big Rocky Mount is, because I lived in Raleigh for a long time, but being from a small town and coming to another Eastern Carolina town that most people would consider Eastern rural, Rocky Mount has a lot going on. My office is located in the Imperial Center, and before, I think I came last year to the Imperial Center for the first time when I came to Downtown Live, and I remember thinking, what is this building? Because it's so neat and so different, and not something that you would expect to find. It's really a gem, and that's been interesting to be involved at the Imperial Center and to see something that's so unique to the area. The people have been very friendly too. That's nice being a new person.
Good. So how does Oxford compare to Rocky Mount as far as size? You keep saying small,
Yeah,
but
it's small. So we didn't even break. I think we were about 9,500.
okay,
so very
okay.
small.
Because forgive me, when we weren't on camera, I was
Yeah.
like, where is Oxford?
It's a small little town.
But that's okay. I'm from a small town too. It's
Yeah.
called Wallace. So yeah. We don't even have 9,000, so don't feel bad. But well, any other comments,
Well,
Susan?
I'm just excited to be here, and I look forward to getting to know everybody and hoping that everybody will be involved in the events that we have and come by and meet me.
All right, and I'm sure your face is going to become
Oh,
very, very
well, I hope
familiar.
so.
Yeah, we'll see you running around and
Yep.
everything.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining
Yeah,
us on
absolutely.
City Beat
Thank you.
today. Yes, and thank you for joining us as well on another edition of City Beat. Good luck to you, Susan.
Thank you.
And also good luck to David Glasgow and Thomas Moton, who joined us a little earlier on the show today. Don't forget to stay tuned next week for more of City Beat.